Hello, once again, everybody. This is Dan with the Spiritual Underground podcast. If you're just running across this podcast for the first time, I am primarily 12-step recovery based content. I do kind of broaden that out and talk to some other people about other kind of, I guess, personal development kind of things. It's kind of a similar department, but most of the time, if you listen to my channel, you're going to hear people's 12-step stories. So I want to warn you, you didn't know. I'll bet if you landed here, it wasn't by accident. So I'll just get that on the table right out of the gates. My guest today, I've been having awesome guests come on lately, and it's just so cool to be this little dude from New Albany. I call myself a New Albany hillbilly. And I've got people contacting me from frankly all over the world to be on the podcast. But my guest today's coming to me from nearby. I was in Tennessee twice in the past couple of months. That's how close it. Amber Hollingsworth has got I think a new book out, right?
No, I have a big YouTube channel.
A big YouTube channel,
Mhm.
yeah. Most of the time it's authors. I thought something founder of Hope for Families Recovery Center. And so it's cool to get somebody that's actually involved in recovery because that's kind of shy on the people that come to me. Some people are sober, some people are not. Some people come through 12 steps, some people have not. But we're going to find out more about Amber and what she does today. I have peeked in on it and on the YouTube channel, listened to a bit of it, and I totally love what is there. Uh, very, I don't know, you can run into some recovery stuff that's kind of stiff.
Yeah,
And I'm more of a loosey goosey kind of guy. So
yeah.
tell me a little about what you got. How did we end up on the opposite end of the line here together?
Well, I am a licensed addiction counselor and also a licensed mental health counselor. I've been working with people for more than 20 years now,
Nice.
individuals in recovery and their families.
Mm.
And my personal background is I come from an addicted family, like pretty hardcore. Parent, parents, grandparents, sister, pretty much every which way you look come from addiction. And so I feel like all of my background is in addiction. So all of my upbringing before I became a professional and then since then. So I've been in it my whole life.
Did you struggle with it personally, or was it just around you?
It was just around me. I didn't struggle with it in a traditional way. Now, I will say, there's a term people use called a addictive personality. I
Hmm.
definitely have that. Everything I do is excessive, through the roof. And so the only reason I haven't been addicted to like a substance like drugs or alcohol is because I just never went down that road because I grew up in it. And I knew I'd like it too much. I knew
That's an interesting thing where I'll see, and just for instance, like brothers and sisters that grow up in addicted families, one of them will say, I am never touching anything,
yeah.
and the other one will fall deeply into the trap. And it's like, how does that happen that those two people have such a different reaction to the addiction around them? And just for some reference, my sponsor has been sober 41 years. He actually is an addict and alcoholic, but he says about the double winner. He also had it around his family system at the same time, and has been working in the field for some 25 years or something like that. So I kind of like feel like some people will say, and I've used this, I got an unfair advantage to have this man by my side to help me understand what the intricacies of this is, because it's a weird universe to have people that are
Yeah.
around you.
Sounds like he understands it from every angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you grow up in Tennessee? Is that just where you're at now, or is that
I'm in South Carolina now in
oh, South
Greenville,
Carolina? Okay,
sort of in the upstate, but I grew up in West Tennessee, sort of halfway between Nashville and Memphis.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, I've got an AA speaker friend of mine that I have loved dearly for years that lives just a little north of Nashville, and I was at his house not long ago, and then actually a sponsee of mine, and I actually, I call these men friends of mine.
Hmm.
Once a certain point comes around, it's not that relationship anymore, even though we do still, we do that also. But his bachelor party was this weekend, and we were in Chattanooga, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. It's funny, I'm in Tennessee a bit
Was
here.
it a sober bachelor party?
Yes,
Well, that's
absolutely.
interesting. We could
Yep,
have an episode on
yep,
that.
yep. One guy, he had a childhood friend who he went to school with from kindergarten. This man he wasn't a sober guy, but he didn't have our problem either, and I
Right.
totally understand that difference. We went out to eat. He had a beer,
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
One of those weirdos, one of those like, what's the point?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But he also respected the rest of us, and I think it was a little bit of both. He didn't want to be just like a total like I'm just gonna kneel to you guys. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of he did his thing, and we had a great time. It was great, yeah. And a lot of people say like sober bachelor party. What is
It can be done and it can be fun. That's
It
right.
was a blast, man. We went down here, but they rented a house in Chattanooga. We got there all met up around Friday afternoon in the middle of the day and went out to eat. Went to the South Side Social Club that was a bar,
Mm-hmm.
but it had bowling and darts and pool and
All
corn
kind of thing. Yeah, all
and
kind of
all kind
entertaining
of
things.
stuff to
Mm-hmm.
do. And then we spent all day Saturday on Lake Chickamauga in a boat tubing and eating and just hanging out, bobbing around in the water. And
Just
we all
having lots of fun, and you still remember it after
Yep.
the fact, and
And
you don't
deepening
have any regrets
relationships.
or secrets from it.
Right.
That's what
And
you win.
deepening our relationships with one another. I know Derek pretty well, the groom, I took him through the 12 steps and he's somewhere 3 years or something. But he's got an older brother that I really like, and I've got to, haven't really had an opportunity to get to know him better. And the other men that were on the trip with us, because that's, that one guy says that opposite of addiction is connection stuff.
That's right. That's my belief.
I,
Hmm.
so I like making deeper connections with guys and talking real stuff too, not just who's going, not that you can't talk about football and baseball and that kind of stuff, but we're sharing about our inner selves and our struggles and stuff we're dealing with and real things and
Get real
more
underneath
than
the
that.
superficial, right? Yeah.
I don't know this to be the case, but I really grow up with that happening in my male circles. It tended to all be superficial until I got to recovery.
Yeah, and I work mostly with men in my practice, and it's real interesting because men, men want to talk about deep things and feelings just as much as women do. They just are unsure about talking to other guys about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some stuff about being a sissy and being seen as vulnerable and these kind of labels, and I remember, growing up with that stuff getting tossed around as a young kid, about whether if you was the P word and
Mm-hmm.
sissy and the last thing in the world you could do was cry, right? Uh,
Right.
that was like you were way down on the
Oh
list.
yeah.
And picked up just that's another thing about this is I picked up a bunch of faulty training along the
Right.
way that just wasn't working out for me that I've had to do quite a bit of work to undo.
Right. There's only so much you can stuff in the container. The container gets full. And then you end up having to pour things in on top of it, trying to keep things in there. And that don't work so good either.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. So tell me a little about what's going on in your neck of the woods and what you do and your angles on recovery and how you help fellas and gals.
Hmm. Well, because I've worked with people who have addictions for 20 plus years, almost all of the people that have come to me over those years have come on some level of not wanting to come, some much
Um,
more than others, right? And so I feel like I've got a lot of experience with how to engage people who are not thrilled about the process, who probably never wanted to come. Some of them got tricked into coming to see me. And so after years of dealing with that, I've developed some abilities and techniques to engage people and pull them in. And and the YouTube got started because people would call me up and they would say, "Hey, I want my husband to come see you. I want my daughter to come see you," but they won't come. And then I would end up spending a lot of time like coaching them through how to engage a person and how to get that person in a mindset to come. And I feel like there's just not a lot of that out there. Most families get told, you're powerless, wait till they hit bottom, they have to want it for themselves. And basically, they just get told, you're going to have to just step back and cross your fingers and hope for the best and hope they figure it out and decide they want something different.
and there's some truth to all those things you just said also, but
Right.
are
There's
some
some
things we
truth.
can do to nudge
But there
people
are
in
some
the right
things
direction.
I like to say you can't force someone, but you can influence them. And so the YouTube channel, a lot of it is about helping families understand that they're not powerless and that they can have influence. It's probably just going to involve doing things a little different than you've been doing it. So that's what I teach people is how to have influence in the right direction over someone who has a substance abuse problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I tell people, as a guy who's been in recovery for a while, people will come to those, just I'm not a professional, right? I'm just a dude that people will know is sober
Right.
and
So they'll seek you
bring
out,
us to
right?
my
Yeah.
doorstep in a sense and
Hmm.
say, hey, my brother, my son, my whatever. And there is something, like you said, actually, you have some power that very few people have. You can actually place some conditions on people that was going to make them uncomfortable where they're at and move them maybe in the direction you want them to move into, the opposite of enabling them and helping them to learn to stop doing that.
Right, that's definitely part of it. The allowing things to get uncomfortable is a piece of that process. But families have the most influence and the most power. They just don't realize it and they don't know how to use it because everything they've tried has not only not worked, but a lot of it has backfired on them by the time they get to me. And so it's not even just about how to have influence, it's about digging out of the hole of the negative influence that you have usually to start with.
Yeah, reversing some of the damage you've already
There
done.
you go. That's right, Dan.
Yeah.
Digging out of that hole. Yeah.
Um, that's probably a bigger chunk because, like you said, most, in my experience, most people that have arrived at recovery on their own they're in a pickle, right?
Hmm.
And when you don't end up in that pickle and you can still manage, man, you just think, okay, okay, I can make it for another day and I can move along. I hear probably more problems with the loved ones addicted folks, as far as the struggles go than an actual, because the addicted dude or gal thinks they're doing all right. They think they're
Well,
still
they're
man.
they're under
Their
anesthesia.
life is a mess, but they can't see it.
Right, right. They're numb, they're under anesthesia. And so the family members they're the ones that have the problem, the ones that are seeking a solution initially. And so that's where I like to start with people is helping people understand. And it's kind of like what you said, Dan. It's a combination of allowing things to get uncomfortable, but I wouldn't necessarily call it tough love because
I don't like that word either.
I don't like it because a lot of people, when you hear that, they think it means cut the person off emotionally, financially. It's just almost like I'm not going to talk to you, or you're completely out of this family until you change. And that actually has a reverse effect in my experience. That actually makes things a little worse. So, what most families like to do is they want to fix all the external problems that the person is creating. They want to pay for the lawyer and they want to like get you extra credit at school and they want to call your boss and, they want to fix all the external things, but then they want to be mad at you inside the relationship. So the dynamic between the two people is, you're ruining your life, you're ruining our life, you're a terrible father, and you're just sort of like on them. And that's the opposite. If you can reverse that, you start to get some influence. So you have to let the world be the bad guy so that they can see that they're causing a mess in their lives. And that mess isn't coming from you because what I've learned from people coming in to see me is that they feel like their primary problem is this person in their life. It's usually their spouse or their parent, but it's this primary relationship that they have. And it's all they can think about. They literally cannot see past that. They see their problem as this person. And it's almost like the family's trying to get them to see it so quickly, they're really like blocking their view. So I try to teach families how to step out of the way so the person can actually see it and rebuild your relationship with a person without fixing their problems, but having empathy and understanding and connection. Then you start to have some influence over it because before that, not only do they don't care what you have to say, a lot of times they get so dug in to being oppositional, they're just doing it more just to get at you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't, the stress that's imposed on them makes them have to keep on going after that relief that they're getting from whatever substance they're using, and I don't, I'm 12 step based, so I look at it as a disease, right? And it's really not the person, and not a single person have I ever sponsored. And I've had the fortune to sponsor both men and women, which is
Hmm.
not, necessarily traditional
Right,
in
right,
12-step recovery. Uh, and it's never the person.
right,
Inside there is a good person. They've just been like, I like to say their operating system has been hijacked,
right,
just like a computer virus or something like that, where they're not really running their own show.
right.
You got to get it off of being that Bill or Susan is the problem.
Exactly. You have to sort of separate the issue from the person, right? And if you don't believe that, if you go to any addiction recovery group meeting, anything, and you listen to people's stories, the stories are all the same, no matter how old they are, no matter what race they are, no matter what religion they are, no matter how much money they have. And so it's the predictability of the issue of addiction, right? And it's some have those symptoms faster than others, but it's always the same set of symptoms and usually the same predictable order. It's just how fast they come. And so to me, there's just a lot of evidence. You can take anybody, put them in a certain addiction, and you can predict what behavior is coming next. You could call me up and tell me what your loved one's doing today. I can tell you what they're going to do tomorrow. And anybody that's been around addiction for 5 minutes can do the same thing.
Uh, I will say, I don't know about 5 minutes, but when you've been around a little while, you definitely, and I'm sure you have, like, I actually, on the other end of this podcast table is a true lead crystal ball, about
Mm-hmm.
8 inches in diameter. And I joke and I kind of use it as a prop about I've got a crystal ball and I can tell you where you are going.
Yeah.
My sponsor, Christopher, he is scary accurate with his predictions about the people that come through his treatment center. And it's a little bit funny, and he does keep it vanilla, so he doesn't talk about the clients in the way of like names and that kind of
Right.
stuff.
He keeps it general, right?
Right. So, and he needs to be able he needs to have somebody safe to do that with, or it's too much.
Right.
That's another question I would have for you. Do you find that, like, dealing with this day in and day out, much like the family of addicted people, that it has an impact on you?
It definitely has an impact on me. I'm lucky in that I have a couple of other counselors that work on my team, and we work as a treatment team. So we
Right.
have each other. And
Yeah.
so it is helpful to be able to sort of download and process and even brainstorm with
Yeah.
someone else.
Because just like these family members, and again, this is 12-step kind of stuff, but these people will make you sick,
Yes.
like it or not, no matter what you've got, how
It's a
much backbone you
communicable
have.
illness. It is very, very contagious. And it's going to suck you in one way or the other. It's either going to suck you into having an addiction problem yourself, or it's going to suck you into some other sort of codependent support role of craziness, crazy making. And you can't be around it for long without getting sucked into it.
Yeah. I've heard, like, for most, like, substance abuse, chemical dependency, whatever that was, it's substance abuse disorder is the right term today, I
So,
think.
yeah, the
Uh,
fancy term is substance use disorder, right? That's
Substance
the fancy
use,
way.
uh, that their, like, normal career lifespan is somewhere in the 5-year range, because it just drags you down so bad that it's tough to be staying in it for a while. And if you've been in it over 20, uh,
Right.
to talk to your constitution in that department. The same thing with my sponsor Christopher, to watch and to hear these stories. Some of you can't make this stuff up.
Right. 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 Well, I think the thing for me, and you're right, that statistic, you're spot on. The average lifespan of an addiction counselor in the career is 5 years. And I'm like, gosh, it takes more than 5 years to get into this. Like, oh my goodness. And I think it has to do with the mindset that you come in with. Um, if you have your mindset that your job is, I've got to get this person clean and sober forever, you're going to get burned out really quick. You're going to get compassion fatigue. You're going to get irritated with the people you're working with because you're going to feel like it's a reflection of you.
Mm,
And then you're going to start blaming them. And then you get into this addiction counselor mindset of, um, being like, come back when you're ready, or maybe you just haven't suffered enough, or, and so you get in this place of almost sort of looking down at someone because it's too hard to connect what that person's doing to your own sort of professional ability. You get all that projection going on. And so when you can unattach that and just focus on the relationship, like for me, my mission when I work with someone is make sure they have a good experience, no matter what. Because if they either don't get clean and sober with me, or if they do, but then they fall later down the road, my goal is that they're not going to be scared to either come back to see me or walk in and see someone else. Right. And I want them to know what to do and to not be intimidated about it, and to not resist it for so long, like so many people do. And I got that because I started out working with teenagers. And if
Mm.
you have in your mindset that you're going to get a teenager clean and sober today and they're just never going to do it again ever in their whole life, you're going to get burned out real quick. Yeah. So you gotta reset your mindset on what you're doing and what the outcome should look like. And then when you do that, you feel very positive about the situation because those are more things you can control. The relationship piece, the experience piece, those things you can have a lot more control over, and that helps you to feel like you're making progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really like that. Because I started using when I was in my teens.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing about it is that I've lived in this house. We moved in here when I was 3. I will be 56 here in a few days, and
Wow.
this table that I'm now doing recovery, 2 different recovery podcasts at.
Uh-huh.
Spiritual Underground podcast, which is this, and then the I Am One Two podcast, which is the one I do with my sponsor. This
Okay.
is the very first table I overdrank at as a teenager on a snow day in like the 8th grade. I mean,
That's
this
symbolic, isn't it? Wow.
yeah, this very room, this very table that was passed down from my grandparents. And my buddy called, said my friends are, or he said, your parents work, right? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, wow, what's up? He said, let's get some beer and drink it at your house today since nobody's home. And it wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
really matter what those guys asked me to do. If they'd
Mm-hmm.
go throw snowballs, if they'd wanted to go sledding, it wouldn't have mattered what they
Right.
asked me to do. They were asking me to do something with them.
To be with them, to be social, to be
Yep.
friends.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say, yeah. So I said, yeah, and then
Mm-hmm.
this very first one, they ended up having to clean up after me. And uh, I did, like I like to say, I said, right out gates, I did it poorly. And I continued that pattern throughout my using career of them having to throw me through the shower and clean up the house and clean up the puke and put me
Mm-hmm.
to bed. And I don't know, since so going back to that teenagers thing, you couldn't have told me for years. I had my first DUI when I was 16. I had another one when I was 19. I got kicked off the high school basketball team for smoking pot. All these things were happening to me, these consequences, and you couldn't tell me I had a problem.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Dan, especially when you said I would have done whatever they asked me to do because I just wanted to be with my peers. So when I say when I was a baby counselor, my first job out the gate was to build an intensive outpatient program for teenagers and then run it. And I tell you, I didn't know what I was doing. And when I say I was in over my head, I mean way over my head. Because I mean, there's just a lot to it, but I had no idea what I was
I'm
doing.
not sure that's an accomplishable ask for anybody, really. Just
Oh, oh my gosh, right? I'm serious.
try.
Especially a brand new
I'll try.
kid. I was 24, 23 out of grad school, and you get one addiction class in grad school, just so you know. And they basically, it comes down to you learn the disease model, and then you sit in on a few 12-step meetings and you write a paper about your experience with that. That's it. That's it. And so, that's about all that I had walking into this. And of course, I didn't want people to know that, right? This is my first job, and I had to act like I knew what I was doing. Luckily, this program went on kind of in the evenings after most people were going home. And so, my thing was, well, I just have to get these kids to show up here because if they don't show up, then I'm going to be, caught on to. They're going to know I don't know what I'm doing because these kids won't show up. So my goal was just to get these kids these teenagers to show up. And that's where I started to learn that it is about the relationship. And when you run groups, it's not just the relationship with me, but the relationships with the other kids. So after I got the first few of them through it, and I got to design the program, so I'd do what I want. That was nice. I would let the ones that graduated come back, just keep coming back as mentors. I called them mentors as long as they wanted to, as long as they weren't causing trouble, you know?
A sponsor does the same thing.
Exactly. And so I won these few over, and then they won the rest of them over for me, and then the next ones won the next ones, and that I had a nice system going.
That is
But
a good
what
system, yeah.
happened is those kids liked coming to that group because they liked to be with the other kids. And so they got sober because they wanted to keep coming and be a mentor and be part of the group. That was the whole thing. That was the whole model, and it
What
worked.
12-step recovery is all about. That's
That's
what
right.
I'm
It
big on
worked.
today, is sponsoring other people. If I would stop sponsoring other people, there's no way
Mhm.
I'm still staying sober. There's no
Right, but it was that peer influence that I first understood and learned that it's about the relationships as far as influencing people to be sober, because it wasn't about trying to convince them. And we would talk about it, we would do all the things, but it wasn't so much that they stopped because they're like, oh, I'm a drug addict and blah, blah. It was more like, I think I like this group. I think I want to be a mentor one day. And so they cleaned it up just to keep coming, and they came for years. It was pretty great. Yeah.
It's about helping other people, and there's something in us that we are built to do that, and we don't
Hmm.
know it. It
Hmm.
has to be. And of course, you had these people demonstrating that sobriety and a great life was possible. So
Right.
they're testifying to their experience and sharing that with these people, and they want that too. And you can't help but want that. I mean, you do have the exceptions. You always have that, but yeah, that's a perfect system to get that snowball moving. And how
Right. Our
beautiful is
motto
that
was,
that you were so young. I mean, to be doing that in your 20s.
well, listen, I just started out doing it because I just wanted to figure out how to make these kids show up so I wouldn't be called on to. I didn't know what I was doing. So I lucked into that. But our
Because I
motto
think about how
was,
dumb I was in my 20s, and now I was
yeah,
an active alcoholic, but I knew some stuff. I play an engineer in the daytime. I've got a whole bunch of skills, but like looking back at 20 to 30-year-old Dan,
right.
man, yeah, you didn't need.
Yeah. I knew I was in over my head at the time, but looking back now, I know even more how over
Yeah.
my head that I really was walking a tightrope in there.
What a gift too that you were presented with. I don't know where you land with the higher power, and I'm a little, but there's some energy out there that I've been able to tap into. I talk about like a big long extension cord with a whole bunch of plugs,
Yeah,
and
that's a
I
great
don't
way
have
to
any
describe it.
idea what it is. I'm not going to profess to start preaching or start talking about what it is, but something
Hmm.
there. And I've seen these gifts being laid at my feet over the years, even when I was still, a mess. But now today, I actually can purposely and intentionally stay plugged into that power that seems to like keep me where in a place that I can't imagine. It's
Yeah, it feels like a Jedi mind trick or something, right? It's
yes.
almost like using the Force, and it's hard to explain it.
Yep. And
Yeah.
those movies and stuff mean something different to me today.
Oh, yeah.
See them, the Force, and
Like
the
coming from the dark side to the
yeah,
light side,
when
all
I
the
was
things. Yeah.
whatever it was when I was, what was that, 1976 or something, that Star Wars come out, and my uncle took me and that's an, my uncle took me and a whole carload of people to it, and my uncle sat out in the car and drank beer the whole time. While he sent these kids in, and I can't imagine the state he was in when he drove us home that day.
Wow. Yeah.
And he died at 49 years old.
Wow.
He
Gosh,
sat
that's
down on his bed.
so young.
He was a happy alcoholic. He was never that nightmare dude. He was always happy and everything, but that wasn't, I saw what he was doing.
Hmm.
And
But because he was a happy, probably kind of flew under the radar a bit
yep.
as far as, getting
He was
put
happy.
called
He was
out and that kind of thing.
professional, and he brought home the bacon.
Yeah.
He was a CFO for a giant big company
Oh, yeah,
here.
that's my kind of alcoholic, right? That's my specialty. Businessmen who drink too much.
Yep. And he
Love
smoked,
them.
he drank. He had a
Yeah.
closet there. The bottom half of it was full of whiskey, and the top half of it was full of cartons of cigarettes. And he worked for a company here in Louisville, Kentucky that made both of those. So he
Oh
probably
my gosh.
great.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, we circled around to that. Uh, I love the alienate alienating your clients is the worst thing you can do. And you
Yep.
talk about that relationship building with them so that, that they, and I can always see that you're a likable person, that you can put that out there, that
Mm-hmm.
they're not, like you said, what if they stay sober or they don't stay sober? When they leave, at least they had a pleasant experience. And this gal wasn't up my ass the whole time.
Oh yeah. I
And
say, listen, I'm not your probation officer. I'm not the principal. I actually, we call what we do lawyering, the way we work in our office, because we give their family member gets a coach. That's their lawyer. And they get me. I'm their lawyer. I'm a defense attorney. I'm good at it. And I got your back. My job is to get you out of whatever mess you're in and make your life better. I'm your girl. Like I am on your side. You're not in trouble with me. I'm here to get you out of trouble. That's the way I
awesome.
see my
I
role.
love it.
That's my job. Hmm.
Yeah, that is, yeah, that's super cool. I when I when I start sponsoring a guy, I have some ground rules that I want them to abide by. I don't know
Hmm.
how to give this to them if they don't abide by some basic framework of what I'm expecting. And one thing is I'm wanting you to call me every day.
Hmm.
People think that's a stretch, but
Hmm.
that's my deal, and that was taught to me. And they will call and they'll do this thing about just checking in, and that's my very first line. I'm like, dude, I am not your probation officer. You are not checking in with me, man.
Right.
I'm a
Right.
friend. I'm a buddy trying to help you bail
Right.
out of this stuff that you're in, man. And I'm no different. I'm the same guy as you are too. I'm no.
Hmm.
Don't put me up on some pedestal. Uh,
Right.
I don't have. I'm just a regular dude who stays sober by helping you help by trying to help you stay sober. Because that's the other great thing about sponsoring. Their success ratio has nothing to do with my sobriety. I get the
Right.
I get the points
Either way.
just for trying.
That's right.
If
And
they
that's why you can
fail
do
or
it so long. It's
they
that mindset shift. If
yeah.
you can wrap your head around that, you won't burn out nearly as quickly.
And
That's
it's
right.
always a talk that I have to go through with new guys, as they deal with it just in the last few days of their sponsee struggling. And I'm like, you have to find some way to not be attached to that, man.
Well,
Uh,
a lot of it's about timing, right? And you got to realize that maybe you're coming at their time where they're going to deal with this and they're done forever. But sometimes you're coming in somewhere early in the story and you're there to plant a seed. Either way, you're still part of the story and you're moving the process along. And when you can kind of it's pretty easy for me to kind of quickly analyze like where someone's at in their story and then for me to figure out what's my part here, because it's not always to like make someone get completely over here on this side, but it's maybe about getting someone to take this next little step or learn this next little lesson.
yeah,
and and realizing that even if it doesn't stick all the way, once you've learned something and you really understand it, you can't unlearn it. You can run from it, but it's in there. It's in your heart and it's going to plague you until you come back to it. So sometimes I'm just planting those seeds.
that's what I mean about having that, where I have this unfair advantage of having a sponsor that's a lot like you are, that has
Yeah.
been able to implant those stories, those lessons in me
Mm-hmm.
that have been along on my journey too, that that's made me, made me a better person. It's made me a better sponsor. It's made, and these other, I always take, used to say, I had a guy tell me, you must participate in your own recovery. And in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, when he said that, I thought, what a D head. Uh,
We
uh,
probably said it with a D-head tone.
no, he was actually a really good dude, and he's still a
Yeah.
friend of mine. It was just that and I don't like this term, but there's some validity to it. I just wasn't ready to hear what he was handing me at the moment. That I'm not ready thing, or wherever you're at in the process. That's the other thing my sponsor tells me all the time. It's like it's a process, man.
It
And
is a process.
you're meeting this person at this moment in their process, and unless you have like the experience he has, but like you probably have, you probably quickly get a hold of, and I'm getting better after some time of knowing, okay, here's where we're at today,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to digest that, and not get, but like my brand new guys that are a year sober and are just treading out to sponsor people,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have any of that. Hell, they got here a year ago and they didn't think they were an alcoholic.
Right.
They didn't think they had a problem just 12 months ago. Now I got them helping somebody.
Right. And it's a beautiful thing to see someone going from I don't have a problem.
Yeah,
I'm just showing up at this meeting because someone's making me, whether I got like a DUI or my partner or whatever, to going all the way through all those stages. And when you see it happen enough times, you learn to have faith in the process a little bit, and you say, it's going to be all right. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Another one of those men back in told me that he would guarantee me, and he put the preface on it. He said, I can guarantee you that if you have this thing I got, this thing we call alcoholism, if you've got this, if you will work these 12 steps and practice these principles in your daily life, your life is going to get better.
Right.
And that wasn't like a huge promise, right? He didn't promise me that I'd be making $500,000 a year or what, and I'm not, but he didn't. He gave me a real simple promise that things would just get better if I would just do this. And even at that point in time, my mind went to guarantees, death and taxes. Those are the only guarantees in life.
That's right.
But now
That's right.
today, I can stand and tell that story, and I can tell that guy, hey, I can guarantee you that if you will follow me and you will do these things I'm asking of you, your life's going to get better. I don't know how much, but it will get better. And then later on, you get that there's nothing that I do in my life is more fulfilling and more heart medicine than grabbing up something, not grabbing up, because I don't pick my sponsees. That's another one, that stitching cord and that thing where they get sent to you. When I get an opportunity to help one of these men come up from like a real tight spot, man. Most of them, again, we don't come here on a winning streak.
Right.
Yeah. And they come in here thinking that it's over, that they're done,
That they've dug a hole that's so big that there's no getting out of. And
I just I picture myself walking backwards, just going, come on.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes I had to stall because they stall,
Uh-huh.
too far away, and I had to go back a little bit more and say, okay, come on, come on.
Yeah,
And
I
then
like
later
that.
on, when the gratitude that comes, man, I'll tear up talking about it. The gratitude that comes out of them later on about the thank yous that I get via text and different things of like I did something.
Right.
But ain't really me either, but
Right.
at the same time, I am good at this.
Right. You have influence.
I have
You
tools.
have cards to play, and when you know how to play them in the right order at the right time, sometimes you come out with a winning hand. A lot of times you come out with a winning hand.
Yep. Yeah, I've got some men that I sponsor, and that's lives are just going great, man. And they were train wrecks not long ago. No kidding. One guy, my buddy Travis, he actually got hit by a train while high on
He
heroin.
was literally a train wreck.
He was a train wreck. There's a I Am 1-2 podcast out there called Travis the Train Wreck. And he tells that story, but now he's got his family back. His wife is also in 12-step recovery. They have a beautiful union that is something that is, and our kids are excelling, and he's helping people, and got the people that he wrecked, they fired him for wrecking that truck into the train. He didn't keep that job. They called him back, and now he's the director of training for that same company, some years later, and he had went and, again, I will make sure that this is not Dan. This is the stuff we do. I coached him through that amend with that previous employer. And in some months, and it wasn't soon, 18 months later or something like that, the guy calls him back and offers him this job that is like, just crazy, just
comes full circle.
dream kind of things happening in these men's lives. The guys that's got fired and now they're, continued their education and are nurses and are continuing to do that. And you can beat that drum, man. You can pull this up out of the hole. That is possible, no matter how far down you have gone. With the right help, you can turn that around.
And I can tell from listening to you, Dan, you have a similar process as me. You use a lot of positive reinforcement and encouragement. And I know it seems simple, but we forget that positive reinforcement works better than negative. We get focused on the consequences, making the person suffer. But the definition of addiction is you keep doing it despite the consequence. That's the definition, despite the consequence. Think of how many people are out there who've lost everything: kids, home, freedom, dignity, self-respect, everything. That's not the thing that gets you there. That might be the thing that makes you think about maybe you might want to do something different, but that's not the thing that pulls people along in the right direction. What you're talking about,
Yeah, you gotta have somebody saying, come on.
You got somebody saying, hey, it's better over here.
Yep.
And you can be better. You can be better. Not you load, you're a low down, dirty piece of whatever, that's not gonna do it.
My sponsor calls his group aftercare. I think it's a typical thing, but
Hmm.
this men's group, this podcast is named after my men's home group, the Spiritual Underground. That was the name of it. And in 2014, I've been caught breaking in houses, stealing pain pills.
Hmm.
And I stood in front of a judge down in New Albany here, my little hometown. Judge Cody said, and the sentencing guidelines for the crimes you have committed is 6 to 20 years in the Indiana Department of Corrections.
Oh
Yeah,
my,
that was not even close to my reaction. Uh, but it's what gave me that desperation
it
and
gives you a
put my
moment of clarity,
craft
right?
to go
Yeah,
and start asking and actually accepting help from people who
right,
understand. And there was nobody really offering me any help. Nobody except for the 12-step community.
right.
It was like I describe it like I was in a cardboard box painted black on the inside, and there was
Hmm.
a pinhole of light up in one corner, and that was these guys at the Spiritual Underground saying, "Hey, man, we guys that work this program, we hardly ever see them go to prison."
Right.
I'm like, that don't make any sense to me,
And
but
it
it
doesn't, it
put some
doesn't
faith
make
in
sense,
me,
but
and I
it's
was like,
true.
"Hey, it
Hmm.
was a Hail Mary pass. What else?
Right.
Nobody else was offering me anything.
Right.
Just go to jail or okay, I'll take a chance with you fellas."
And I'm glad you brought that up too, Dan, because how people say like the person has to want it and they have to want it for themselves. I'm like, dude, I've been doing this a long time, and everybody comes in because they're backed into some sort of corner, and that's great. There's no bad reason. When somebody says, well, you can't do it for that, I'm like, if you're doing it to not go to jail, I think that's great. If you're doing it to not lose your kids, fantastic. If you're doing it because you want to lose weight, wonderful. I've never heard a bad reason. And so people get
It does
all
run the
caught up in
gamut.
what's your reason? I'm like, I like them all. Bring them.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep. Because I get a lot of guys that come to me that are, what we would call high bottom. They really haven't
right,
lost much, but
right,
life just isn't. And this is kind of this I am one two movement is offering this program to anybody that's not necessarily substance abusers or alcoholics or gamblers, anybody who would like to maybe try these 12-step tools because life just isn't what I would hope it would have been.
right. And the 12 steps just teach you how to live life easier. That's it. It's how to manage your relationships and your sanity.
Yep.
And life just gets easier if you have those skills, regardless of why you're getting those skills.
That's another one of them uphill battles with those people that are in that department that they haven't gone through what I went through and they haven't gone through what Travis has gone through. So they will start doubting whether
Hmm.
they really need this or not. But this other unfair advantage I have is this demonstration of 40 men in this home group that can all testify to this, and there's a portion of them that also haven't went all the way to the bottom,
Right,
what the real bottom is dead. And I have those men to talk about too,
right.
you know, the
That's
handful
what I say.
of
Don't
guys.
wait till bottom. That's dead. If you're alive, you're in the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. A handful of guys, man, that really have meant something to me, man, lost the battle of this thing and are no longer with us. And that's another thing about when I first got to 12-step recovery, they were talking about how deadly this disease was and that, and I thought, y'all kind of overselling all this, and you can't scare me.
No, it's terminal. No,
Hang
I
around for a little
Mhm.
while, and that evidence will become true too, and you will see us lose people. And
Yeah, and I tell people not only is it a terminal illness, it's the worst terminal illness because if you have cancer and you go, people are going to bring you casseroles, they're going to do walks for you, they're going to wear ribbons for you, they're going to talk about you like you're a hero. But when you die of this mess, you die alone,
a loser.
a loser, hated,
That's not
no
true.
self-respect, no respect
That's
from
the
anybody else.
perspective.
Right, but it takes everything from you in the
Yes.
process. I'm like, it's not the fact that it kills you, it's what it does in the meantime. It takes everything from you
Yeah.
and leaves you completely broken.
I've had two 45-year-old friends in the past couple of years, both got sober and had 5, 6 years of sobriety, and then got these two particular men got the same kind of cancer. And from what I understand, they're starting to put that label on these alcohol bottles too about the carcinogens, just like we do cigarettes.
Well, yeah, they should, right.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
and but both these men, and is interesting, uplifting, and to watch. They may have still died in the exact same way had they not got sober,
Right.
right? Who knows? Can't ever guess.
Right.
But just like what you were saying, the support that they received as sober people in 12-step community while they went through that battle
Mm-hmm.
was a completely different story. And that's not lost on me, because if they'd have died of cancer as an active alcoholic and addict,
Right.
that support is not you might get some, but it's not gonna be there at the level it was. And and again, those
Right.
demonstrations and those stories I get to see that cause that proof, that I'm not confused about it.
Right. And the legacy you leave, the memories you leave are going to be completely different depending on, like you said, that cancer could have been there the whole time. It could have been ticking, along regardless, right? It could have got you. But those last years of your life between now and then, very different.
Yep, very, very different,
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, again, I'm a little bit, as you can tell, sold out on a 12-step community, but there's other ways there's a lot of ways to get sober,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
not just mine. And I always had to like lay back into that too, because I've seen people who have continued on their lives, and I've been guilty of wanting to have a little judgment about, my way. You can't
Yeah.
do it any other way. The 12-step
Yeah.
community can kind of be that
Well,
way.
it's a little like a religion, right? It is
It
a
is.
it is. It's like my way is the best way or the only way sometimes, but yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And my sponsor's really good about trying to be the antidote to that. You can find some stuff that'll talk about it being culty.
Yep.
Uh, and there's some, but I'm in a traditional bow hunters club,
Uh-huh.
and they got the same, and nobody's trying to be sober or anything, but they still got these same little
Like
judgments.
traditions and
Yeah,
ways
if
of
you're
doing
not shooting
things,
this way
rituals.
instead of
Mm-hmm.
this way, then you're not
Mm-hmm.
doing it along the line. And those are tough stuff. That's tough stuff to beat when
Right.
you're trying to fight this disease of these little things that come at you. What do you, how do you go about like pointing people to support and
Well, I like to say I'm non-denominational recovery. I like it all.
like,
I like it all. And so I'm a huge fan of the 12 steps. Most of the people I have in my personal life that have ever got sober have got sober through 12 steps. My clients, on the other hand, some of them are 12 steppers and some aren't. And just like there's no bad reason to do it, there's no bad way to do it. You got to find what works for you. But I have a video on the YouTube channel called Is AA a cult? Or I think there's 12 steps a
yeah,
cult. I can't remember which way I worded it, but and it sort of speaks to that. Um, the biggest difference there is in an occult cult, they don't let you leave and they disconnect you from everyone around you. And
yeah,
that's not what happens. You can come and go as much as you want to, and you're not that's there are some differences when you look at what is a cult. Now, 12 steps has a lot of rituals and routines and beliefs, but really comparatively, it lines up with it's a religion similar.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's more
Yeah.
similar to a religion than
I
a
would say,
cult.
everything's got its things like that. If you
Right,
play basketball, there's
right,
certain guidelines that you have to stay within, or you're not playing basketball.
right.
I'm seeing 12 steps loosen up. Even it was 2011 when I first walked into my very first AA meeting, scared to death. Man, I talk about being in the parking lot of that church and putting my car in reverse and forward and reverse and forward.
Hmm.
Dan, you need to go in here. No, let's go. No, stay. And I went
Yeah.
in there, and the group was just poured so much hope on me, man. And I had such a great experience in my very first AA meeting ever. Again, I look at whatever this power I see, whatever seemed to do something. They said, is this anybody's first AA meeting ever? And I didn't want to, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
My name's Dan. And then they got quiet. And today I know that that quiet period is in case somebody else is in here and they're slow to raise their hand.
Right.
But I took it as meaning that they needed that I was supposed to talk a little more.
Awkward
I
silence.
didn't go long. I'm glad of that today, but I just shared a little about myself. I was 72 hours sober. I was talking about going into a treatment center and I don't know what to do. And I talked maybe a minute or two, and that
Mm-hmm.
entire meeting, those people opened up and poured hope on me
Mm-hmm.
because I opened myself up to them.
Because
Right.
you made yourself a little vulnerable,
Right.
and then they made themselves vulnerable.
And they were able to do that. If I just said Dan alcoholic and everything, I don't know that it went the same way.
Right.
I was only saying I'm alcoholic because that's what everybody else was saying.
Right.
And
Right.
uh, man, it touches me time and time again to think about the miracles. It's been a result of wandering into this stuff. But and I tried to be the man who does that today too, because I took note of the things that worked for me. And when
Mm-hmm.
somebody comes into my AA meeting, and I know I have this Rain Man gift with names and
Mm-hmm.
faces. It's another gift I don't understand. I can meet you and then meet you 3 years later.
Yeah.
Hi, Amber. Good to see
You
you.
can do that,
Just my
man. That
people.
is a
People
gift.
look
I
at
don't
me and
have
they're
that.
like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Even people I went to school with, I see them. I've lived here all my life, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
run into school friends in the Kroger and the grocery stores and places, and I will just like be like, "Hey, I recognize you. I think we're friends almost, and I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, how's it going, John?" And they're like, "It's Dan Reeves." Oh,
Yeah.
and then that
And then they're like,
connection
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I have that gift, and I'm able to do that in AA, and I try to make sure that I know the people that have come in the meeting, and I make a point to go up and welcome them in and do the things that was done to me that
Mm-hmm.
made me feel welcome when I showed up.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you. I know this is your podcast. You're supposed to ask me the questions, but I'm gonna ask
Go
you a
ahead.
question if that's all right. What all did you try, if anything, before you ended up in that 12-step meeting?
I've done some therapy, some one-on-one therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Was it helpful?
Helpful. Yeah, it was, it kept on building, right? I
Mm-hmm.
won't say today, but it didn't get me sober, right? And I still remember the gal, and I can picture her face, and I know her name.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and she was trying to help me. She was offering me some like what was that book? It had something to do with not relapsing anymore. It wasn't relapse no more, but it was something like that. But she had had me reading some books and doing some things, but it wasn't like what I found about the 12 steps is it's got this completely built framework for you to
Mm-hmm.
get into.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, like there's rooms all over the country and all over the world. They're just waiting to be your friend.
Right.
Where else do you get that? Where, you walk in and everybody's like, oh, hey, great, you're here.
Happy to see you.
And
Yeah.
also this framework, these principles that we use on how to do life, the whole 12-step program about like doing inventory and looking at myself, and making this commitment. And the third step, it gets all wrapped up around God, but
Mm-hmm.
I've been taught not that it ain't so much about that. It's about making a decision and I'm ready to change.
Right. I like to tell people it's just about making a decision that you're not God.
Yeah,
That you
yeah.
don't have
And
all the answers.
sometimes
That's what it is,
I run into guys that the God thing is not something they can like talk about right now, man. So I've done
Right.
it all the way down to, hey, man, I'm making a decision of what I've been doing ain't working no more, and I'm ready to try something different.
To release the control
Yep.
over
Right.
I have the answers or I have the solution. Exactly.
I got a cabin out in the woods that I take guys and gals, to do fifth
Mm-hmm.
steps. And we're out in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the boonies in southern Indiana, man. And there's some magic that happens out there. I was there this whole past weekend, just me and my
Mm-hmm.
brother for a different reason. So I got this little framework and it's given me this way to process this stuff. Uh, you know, I think back about like having to go to alcohol classes from the DUIs that I've had in the past where they sent me to these things. And
Mm-hmm.
and I know today that all that built, right?
Right.
But none of it got me there until I was in that ringer
Right.
where it was get sober or go to prison.
It's timing. It's about the timing.
When it
That's
was that, when that decision was meant to be made, and I wasn't sure this would keep me out of prison.
right.
I wasn't sure of that.
Well, you have to
But
you have to get to the point where you've tried all the other things that you can think of
it does. Yep.
before you're willing to um, let go of that I have the answer thing and willing to try something else, So, that process of change is about letting people work through that, trying all the things.
Yep. Now that's a typical, I think it's a human condition thing. I had to figure out what don't work
Right.
first, then
Yeah.
bump into the things that are working.
It's
I've
it's
had
a,
a guy
it's a
that
bit
I
of a
took,
grieving process. It's a letting go,
there is grief
And the
involved.
last thing we want to do is let it go completely. We want to slow it down. We want to do it every now and then. We want to do it socially or whatever. And the idea of letting it go completely, people have to work through all of those stages and phases to get there. You
Yep.
can't skip them, but you can help speed them up, is what I like to say.
And that's the beauty of the one day at a time thing. I'm not saying I quit forever. I'll just be honest with you. I had 10 years of sobriety and I drank again last fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a pretty rough go for a little bit. My sponsor won't welcome me back in. I'm
Mm-hmm.
someplace about 100 days sober right now.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody made that okay, right? Because I don't have to be perfect. This is not that. But I
Right.
kind of had that on my shoulders when I was relapsing actively.
Right.
Because I'm still going to meetings. I'm still sponsoring a bunch of dudes. I'm still pretending to be sober. Damn,
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
And I didn't lose a thing except for a date.
Right. Right. But I tell clients that you can't take someone's recovery away. If you had 10 years, you had 10 years in my book,
Right.
because you can't unknow the things you knew. And when you decide to step back into the game, you pick it up. Just like you pick up drinking where you left off, you pick up recovery where you left off too.
That's what I
That's
did.
what
And
I
I'm
tell
thankful
people.
for a great sponsor. The day that it got bad and I finally got drunk enough to ask for help. I showed up in his parking lot, man, and I texted him from his parking lot. And I still have the text. I took a screenshot of it. And it says,
Mm-hmm.
I'm drunk as F
Mm-hmm.
and I need your help.
Mm-hmm.
And he come out with a big smile on his face. He didn't come out chastising me. He didn't come out
Right.
telling me what a screw up I was.
Right.
He come
It's,
out pretty
he
wrapped
had that
arms around.
relationship with you that you knew all you had to do was knock on the door whenever.
Yep. And he
Right.
took
And
me
you weren't
upstairs and gave me a
scared.
blanket and a pillow and put me on the couch and gave me a big glass of water and
Mm-hmm.
said, might be a good idea for you to take a nap, Dan.
Right.
It didn't take long. And it did. And it was rough a little bit because some guys I caught some flack on that. Some dudes was wanting to judge me and wanting to, they had me on this pedestal and Dan the podcaster and blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to talk through some of that stuff, and I said some stuff like there was some phrasing that I used and I don't know where it came from, but I said I cannot make this a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I make this a big deal, it's not going to be good for me, man.
No, no,
And they heard it's no big deal.
no.
No, 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 that's not what
Because
I'm
if you
saying.
tell yourself I've screwed it up forever, then you just keep going. You get the efforts,
Yep.
And so that's what I do. I damage control it. I say, dude, this is a blip. Like we're on track.
Back
I
up.
totally agree.
Just get
I
back
I
up.
downplay it. I say, okay, we got this. Like this is a blip on the screen.
I'm a little bit of a numbers guy. I'm an engineer at heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do somewhat for a living. There's some stories behind that too, but I keep track of things the same way. So I like to know
Mm-hmm.
exactly how many sponsees I have,
Right.
It always feel a little funny about that I know that.
Uh-huh.
And at the time I relapsed, I had 14 sponsees.
Wow.
One decided to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's another funny thing, because that's the one I'm hung up on, right?
Right. The one. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, walk into a party and there's 30 people in there and 29 tell me how good I look. And,
Right.
and one says, are you okay?
Right. That's the one
And
you think
I'm in
of.
the bathroom in the mirror looking at myself, wondering what's wrong with me.
Right.
Um, but and I had to have talks with some of those guys because they didn't understand. Some of them were fairly new in recovery, and just had to be honest with them. That hey,
It probably took more courage to come clean and be honest about that than it did the first time, I would imagine.
oh, it did. It was
I would
terrible.
imagine it was harder.
Yep. And
Yeah.
getting up and, I've been telling guys for 10 years, get your chips, man. It's important. And I believe it is. There's something about getting that 30-day chip and everybody,
Right.
we clap and cheer for you. And then you get your 60 and you get all that.
That's right.
And I sitting there now, and the other day I got up and got my 90-day chip, and I don't want to. The whole meeting, I'm going, I don't want to do this. But I get up and I get my 90-day chip,
And you
start
and you're
over.
helping yourself and you're role modeling to someone else in there who's trying to figure out if they're going to come clean about something, right?
Yep, yep,
And when you have those next sponsees, you'll be able to help them through their blip on the screen.
yep. And I will just say, my sponsor, that Unfair Advantage, I am so glad that he's a person like you. You remind me a lot of him in your approach and your way of looking at recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a tunnel.
Right.
There's many branches, and thankfully that he put that in me, because the other thing I've seen is people that get a significant time of recovery don't make it back.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they don't make it back at pride and ego and all that humility, whatnot.
Right. Or
Prevent.
they'll tell themselves, well, I did that, it didn't work for me, obviously. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It worked for you for 10 years. It clearly worked for you, like it's about the way we frame it in our head, and
Yep.
it's mm-hmm.
Those thoughts have been there.
Mm-hmm.
All those thoughts have been there.
Mm-hmm.
But I have this wonderful group of men that surround me, and I'm able to speak freely with them, and my sponsor included, and be honest. And when I'm thinking crazy thoughts,
Be
I can tell
human.
them,
Yeah.
and
Be human.
we can make that back and forth, and it saved my life, because I
Right.
know this is that old thing. It's trying to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yep.
my job is to not let it.
That's right. That's right.
We've been a little more than an hour, so tell me about your podcast so that people have it, and I will definitely link it up. It's been a wonderful time to speak
Yeah.
with you. I feel like I've gotten more vulnerable than I intended to, but this stuff pulls it out of me, man.
Right.
And I don't think you understand the life-saving work this is, and what this is um, overall about. People die, and kids get raised with no parents, and just
No, that's it. That's it for me. It's not, helping someone fix their life is, of course, rewarding. But when that person fixes their life, it helps their whole family and everyone that knows them. And so it has this domino effect in the right direction,
ripple effect. Yeah.
ripple effect. Right.
Some I say too, I was like, it's pretty cool that some 45-year-old dude got sober. That's cool.
That's cool.
The effect it had on my children,
Right.
and the people around me as a result of that, and the men
And all the people you've helped.
been
Right.
watching these men, that does seem to hit me all the time, is that these men, I get to watch them be fathers that they
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a chance to be without recovery. And watch these beautiful young children get raised by parents.
Right. Change their
That
lives.
changes the entire cycle.
It
That's
does.
world changing, in my view. That is how we change the world, is by
Absolutely.
changing the way these little kids are brought up. Because it's cool to be fixed as a 45-year-old. How do we not break that kid?
Right. That's right. And it is pretty cool to watch. It's like watch people come back to life, It really is just watching them come back to themselves a little at a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. So podcast?
Podcast is called, it's a YouTube channel. You can listen to it on any of the podcast apps, but it's called Put the Shovel Down. The podcast, I think, version of it is called Inside the Mind of an Addict. But it's primarily on YouTube. It's Put the Shovel Down, as in you hit your bottom. When you put the shovel down, you can walk away at any point. You don't have to lose everything. You don't have to hit bottom. You can step away.
Yep. When you
Yeah.
stop digging,
Stop digging.
put this
That's right.
shovel down.
Put the shovel down. That's
So
right.
my old buddy says, when the horse is dead, stop beating it. Or
Right.
he says, when the horse is dead, dismount. And when you're in the bottom of the hole, stop digging.
That's right. That's right. You decide where that bottom is.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I kind of do just in time delivery on my podcast. So I don't, I tell this story probably more than I should too, but I was on somebody's podcast and they told me it'd be like, I don't really even remember now, 10 to 16 weeks before it was going to come out.
Oh, wow.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. You got to
Within a 2 week window, I try to put out new content on Sunday. So I'll send you links and it's been
Yeah, and
one.
I'll put it on my channel too and help send some traffic that way. Because you're
Awesome.
doing good work and I can see how heartfelt it is for you.
Yeah. It's, we talked the other day. People ask you what you do when you walk into a situation, and my standard thing, I do recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a handyman, I'm an engineer, I do some stuff to keep the lights on and the insurance paid, but this is what I do.
Just where my heart is, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate it. Any final words, anything last you want to?
No, thank you for having me on, and thank you for all the work you're doing out there helping other people.
Thank you too.
You're just a soldier out there with us. That's what it
Yep.
feels like. We're just
And
soldiers out there fighting. Yeah.
I say it all the time, if you watch, I stopped watching TV. If you look out at the landscape, sometimes the landscape can look pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm sitting at today, I keep on meeting people like you who are out there as a force for the good. And I just continue to believe that the light will win out over the dark. And
That's right.
people like you out here working with me, even in separate places, man, it lifts me.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed it.
Right. Thank you, Amber. Have a good rest of your Monday.
Same to you.
Bye.